Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves standing at the precipice of a new era in the Women's National Basketball Association, a moment that should, by all conventional metrics, be defined by unbridled optimism and the celebration of exponential growth. Yet as we peer into the mechanics of the upcoming broadcast landscape, we are met not with the harmonious hum of progress, but with a discordant note that has sent shockwaves of frustration throughout the fan base. We must turn our analytical gaze toward the recently unveiled coverage plans for the upcoming WNBA season on the USA Network. This is a development that carries with it significant implications, most notably the broadcasting of Caitlin Clark's games to a national audience. However, rather than generating universal acclaim, this announcement has triggered a visceral, almost tangible response from a significant demographic of the viewership, specifically the ardent supporters of Caitlin Clark, the loyalists of the Indiana Fever, and indeed a broad swath of WNBA aficionados who, upon witnessing this revelation, felt a sensation akin to wanting to physically remove their own vision with a spoon rather than endure the presented reality. We collectively harbored a hope, perhaps naive in hindsight, that when Elle Duncan, a figure widely perceived as a renowned detractor not merely of Caitlin Clark the athlete, but of her passionate fan base as well, departed from her previous daily platform at ESPN, we might have seen the conclusion of that particular narrative arc. We allowed ourselves to believe that the era of that specific brand of commentary had drawn to a close. We were, it appears, profoundly mistaken. We are not done with that show. Not by a long shot. The revelation that Elle Duncan is slated to spearhead the USA Network's WNBA studio coverage for the next season, per reports from the Sports Business Journal, has landed with a thud of inevitability. The reaction from the fans is one of distinct unhappiness, a sentiment that is difficult to fault. There is a palpable sense of "here we go again," a weary recognition that there is simply no escape from a media perspective that many viewers find fundamentally biased and antagonistic. This development is part of a larger media rights restructuring, where USA Network is set to broadcast at least 50 games in the year 2026. They are one of the new partners entering the fray, ostensibly to elevate the game. Yet, the immediate feedback from the public sphere suggests a disastrous misalignment between the network's choices and the desires of the consumer. The commentary emanating from the fan base is withering. We are hearing voices decry this move as dead on arrival. There are assertions that nobody wants this, coupled with a profound sense of disappointment that a network would seemingly sabotage its own basketball credibility right out of the gate. When you have viewers explicitly stating that this specific casting choice makes the coverage horrid and hateful, and declaring a preemptive refusal to watch the USA Network, one must question the strategic wisdom at play. It reinforces a perception that the networks are prioritizing the checking of boxes and the perpetuation of controversial narratives over the simple, unadulterated celebration of the sport. It feels to many like a deliberate alienation of the casual fan interest that has recently surged into the league. Amidst this media turmoil, we must also dissect the unfolding labor drama, which has taken a turn toward the theatrical. We have received in recent days a statement from the Players' Union, the WNBPA. It is a communication that can best be described, without hyperbole, as a piece of propaganda. It is a fascinating phenomenon to observe, a collective of athletes who appear to possess an uncanny excellence in every facet of public relations and optics, with the singular, glaring exception of actually signing a beneficial business deal. We are witnessing a group that seems determined to undermine their own position, managing to make themselves look progressively worse in the eyes of the public with each official release. The narrative arc here is stunning in its reversal. There was a time not 3 months ago when the general consensus leaned sympathetically toward the players. The public sentiment was, yes, you ought to be paid a little bit more. But flash forward to our current juncture, and that patience has evaporated, replaced by a sentiment that is explicitly tired of the posturing. The fans are shouting metaphorically and literally, "Sign this deal and let us get on with the season." The union's latest missive, urging WNBA leadership to stop playing games and negotiate in good faith, rings hollow against the backdrop of a deal that is seemingly ready to be signed. It asks the public to send emails to advocate for fair pay, while ignoring the reality that the fan base has moved past the slogans and is now fixated on the product on the floor. And speaking of the product, this brings us to the league's most recent tactical maneuver, a move of undeniable brilliance and timing. The release of the 2026 schedule is not merely a clerical act, it is a calculated assertion of business continuity. As we prepare for the WNBA's 30th season, the releasing of these dates allows for essential planning. It enables teams, partners, and broadcasters to begin the logistical heavy lifting. It allows for the selling of ticket packages and the securing of optimum arena dates, a factor that is critically important for those franchises that do not own their own venues. But beyond the logistics, there is a psychological warfare element at play here. Let us not be confused about the power dynamics between the league entities. The owners currently possess the momentum. They have the sheer numbers of the fan base behind them. We have discussed at length the figures within the collective bargaining agreement proposal that the players have thus far refused to sign. We are looking at a scenario where players could see nearly a 9 times raise by the end of the next CBA term. With this financial reality as the foundation, Commissioner Adam Silver and the league ownership essentially dropped the schedule on the table and said, boom, here it is. It was a directive to the fans to get fired up, to get excited, to start circling dates on the calendar. And it worked. The immediate reaction was a flurry of anticipation. Fans began marking the matchups: Paige Bueckers versus Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark. In my own estimation, the Golden State Valkyries against the Indiana Fever becomes marquee viewing simply because that is a fun, dynamic team to watch. You start looking at the New York Liberty, the Sabrina Ionescu versus Caitlin Clark narrative. The fans get worked up into a lather of excitement, visualizing the season, planning their attendance, and then, in the midst of this euphoria, the realization hits. Everyone turns their gaze away from the schedule and back toward the players, asking the uncomfortable question, isn't it about time y'all signed that deal? Because we are ready for some basketball. This is the pressure point. This is where the strategy of the league creates a vice grip on the union. The longer the players go without signing the agreement, the more agitation they will breed within the fan base. The fans are already frustrated because due to the stalled negotiations, we do not even know where certain players are going. The expansion franchises in Toronto and Portland are left in a state of limbo, unsure of who will populate their rosters. The delay is not merely an administrative annoyance, it is actively impeding the excitement and the narrative building of the sport. This frustration has birthed a sentiment in the comment sections and public forums that is truly wild to contemplate, yet impossible to ignore. We are seeing a growing number of observers suggesting a radical path forward. Let's just roll with the rookies. There is a legitimate, burgeoning school of thought that says the league should proceed with the players currently under contract, the rookies and the few non-free agents, and fill the rest of the rosters with replacement players. It sounds extreme, does it not? But pause and consider the reality of where the eyes are going. Do you truly believe there are not overseas players who would jump at the opportunity to play in this league? And more importantly, think about who would still be on the court in that scenario. The rookies, the Caitlin Clarks, the Angel Reeses, the Paige Bueckers. We must acknowledge, technically speaking, that the vast majority of the stardom driving the current ratings explosion resides in these players who are not free agents. If the league were to theoretically take the drastic step of moving forward with only the rookies and replacement players, would the ratings suffer a catastrophic drop? I am compelled to point out that they likely would not. The compelling content, the rivalries, the new stars, the energy that has revitalized the WNBA would still be present. This is the dangerous game the veteran leadership and the union are playing. They are gambling on their own indispensability in a moment where the audience has clearly signaled that their loyalty lies with the new generation and the product itself, not necessarily with the established hierarchy that is currently holding up the deal. The announcement of the schedule serves as a reminder that the machine of the league is ready to move forward. It highlights the absurdity of the standoff. We have a situation where the deal on the table is lucrative, the schedule is set, the TV partners, despite their questionable hiring choices, are in place, and the only friction point remaining is the refusal of the players to capitalize on the momentum. The juxtaposition of the WNBPA's propaganda against the concrete excitement of the 2026 schedule release exposes a massive disconnect. The union is releasing statements about working conditions and fair pay, seemingly oblivious to the fact that the public is looking at the proposed 9-time salary increase and wondering what more could possibly be debated. The optics are terrible. To see a group of athletes who have historically struggled for visibility now jeopardize their golden era with tactical missteps is a tragedy of sports business. They are seemingly excellent at painting themselves into a corner, issuing demands that alienate the very people who purchase the tickets and subscribe to the channels. We must also touch upon the bizarre technological glitches occurring across the media landscape, where subscribers find themselves inexplicably unsubscribed from channels covering these truths. It is a metaphor, perhaps, for the disconnect in the broader narrative, a system that seems to be malfunctioning, trying to suppress the reality of the situation. But the reality remains. The money is there, the fans are there, and the schedule is there. The arrival of Elle Duncan at USA Network may be a source of profound irritation for many, a signal that the media gatekeepers are still out of touch with the core demographic that drives the Indiana Fever's ratings. It suggests a continued bias that the fans are desperate to escape. However, even that controversy pales in comparison to the existential threat posed by the labor standstill. The fans are willing to endure bad commentary if it means watching Caitlin Clark play. They are not, however, willing to endure a work stoppage or a delayed season because the union cannot recognize a victory when it is staring them in the face. The league has played its hand with the schedule release. It is a necessary part of business operations, yes, but it is also a declaration of intent. It signals that the WNBA is a serious entity, preparing for its 30th season with or without the cooperation of those currently stalling the process. The owners have leveraged the excitement of the upcoming matchups, the Golden State Valkyries, the rematches, the rivalries, to place the burden of performance squarely on the shoulders of the players. As we look toward the future, the question is not whether the league will survive, but who will be part of its thriving ecosystem. The fans have made their stance clear. They want basketball. They want to see the stars they have fallen in love with. They are increasingly indifferent to the grievances of the past and are focused entirely on the potential of the present. If the players continue to release propaganda rather than signatures, they may find that the league and its fan base simply moves on without them, carried on the backs of the rookies and the sheer momentum of the sport itself. It is a chaotic, frustrating, and fascinating time. The networks are making questionable talent decisions, the union is making questionable strategic decisions, and the fans are left in the middle, ready to scoop their eyeballs out with spoons, yet desperate to just watch the game. The pressure is mounting, the schedule is out, the clock is ticking, and one can only hope that the voices of reason and the allure of the massive financial package on the table will eventually drown out the noise of the propaganda. But until then, we watch, we wait, and we wonder if they will truly snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Tell me what you think. Is the fan base right to be furious about the USA Network casting? And does the schedule release effectively corner the players into signing the deal? Peace.